Hello and welcome to this edition of Kid Spaces, the show that's all about you and your space, your home and surroundings, and how they relate to your kids. Hi, I'm Debbie Marie.
And I'm David Jones. Now, since this is the last Kid Spaces for the year, we'd figure we'd put together a collection of stories from across the board.
From babies to teenagers, something every parent should see.
Because parents, this show is for you to make your life more enjoyable with your kids and maybe even a little bit easier.
So without delay, see it all right now on Kid Spaces. Well, with the kids off to school, it's almost inevitable they're going to be bringing home, let's call them unwanted guests.
In the form of cold and flu germs, which means the coughing, the sneezing, the restless nights.
Right, and spreading through the whole family. So the only way to get through it really is to get through it comfortably.
That's right. Breathe easy. Here on Kid Spaces, we've got Kavita Shanae to show you the way.
When kids come down with a cough or a cold, the first thing mom wants to do is to make them feel better. For more than 5 generations, moms have been depending on Vicks products to help care for their families when they're sick. Joining us today on Kid Spaces is pediatrician, author, and mother, Dr. Jennifer Shu, to give us some useful tips on how to make our kids more comfortable when they're sick, and how using timeless cold care remedies like Vicks products can be a part of that solution. Welcome to the show, Dr. Shu. We're so excited to have you on Kid Spaces.
It's my pleasure.
Now, cold and flu season is just around the corner, so what are some tips to care for your kids when they're sick?
I get lots of questions from parents wondering what they can do to make their kids a little bit more comfortable from the cold and flu, because we all know we can't just get rid of it right away. So the first thing I say is to stick with some tried and true remedies for colds and flus, such as making sure your child gets enough rest, pushing the fluids to keep them hydrated. You can use some over-the-counter fever reducers, maybe some chicken soup to reduce the head congestion. And finally, you may want to consider something like Vicks Vapor Rub, which is designed to reduce some of that cough that we get with colds and flu.
What makes Vicks Vapor Rub so effective when easing coughs associated with the common cold?
Vicks contains aromatic vapors that are continually inhaled, and they reduce cough by stimulating some of the cold receptors in our respiratory passages. So it's designed to be applied to your chest and your throat to minimize some of the cough symptoms with colds and flu. You can also put it on muscles and joints to get rid of some of those minor aches and pains that we get.
Wow, so it has a lot of uses.
It does.
So what are some other ways that parents can care for their child who's suffering from a cold or the flu?
Make sure your child gets plenty of rest. You can also read a story to them to relax them at night, make them really comfortable with some quiet music. You can use over-the-counter fever reducers such as acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Make sure they get plenty of fluids, maybe some chicken soup to help reduce some of that congestion that you get with colds. Finally, I encourage parents to try some steam in their child's bedroom. You can use a cool mist humidifier, or if you choose to use a warm air humidifier, warm steam humidifier, you can actually add some Vicks Vapor Steam medication to the cold water before you turn it on, and that releases some medicated vapors to reduce some of the urge to cough from the cold.
I love that. So now in the case of a bad cold or the flu, a trip to the doctor's office may be necessary. When should a parent be taking their child to the doctor?
Well, anytime a parent is concerned, it's better to err on the side of caution and either call the doctor or make an appointment for your child to be seen. Really, there are some symptoms that I get most concerned about, and those are a higher persistent fever, any ongoing vomiting or diarrhea, dehydration, and things like breathing problems where the child has a severe cough or difficulty breathing.
When should a parent be keeping their child home from school?
Well, different schools and daycare centers may have different regulations regarding when to send their child home. The 2 most important things I tell parents are that if your child has a fever over 101 within the last 24 hours, don't send him or her to school. If the child has anything contagious, such as a thick eye discharge, maybe a rash that could be contagious, vomiting or diarrhea, or simply can't focus because he's feeling so bad.
After a visit to the doctor, the best thing for a child would be basic parental tender loving care and tried and trusted home remedies like chicken soup and lots of rest.
That's right. If at all possible, I encourage parents to teach their children healthy habits such as good hand washing to prevent colds and flus. Anytime your child touches something that is a shared object like computer keyboards, telephones, remote controls, anything public like that, they may want to wash their hands as well.
Kids get into a lot of things, and it's hard to get them to wash their hands, so that's a good point.
Exactly. And if they're using a tissue to cough or sneeze into, make sure they throw it into the trash right away and wash their hands afterwards. I also encourage parents to talk to their pediatricians about the flu vaccines for their children during cold and flu season.
So if our audience wants more information, where would they go?
For more information about what we talked about today, viewers can go to Vicks.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shu, for coming and joining us on Kids Spaces and giving us such useful tips on how to care for our kids' coughs and sniffles.
Thank you for having me, Kavita.
It's been a pleasure. For Kids Spaces, I'm Kavita Shanae.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and be sure to check out our holiday shows. They're good for kids of all ages.
That's right. More Kids Spaces next year, and like Debbie just said, more Designing Spaces next week. I'm David Jones.
And I'm Debbie Marie. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. You can visit these websites to learn more about the participants on this edition of Designing Spaces.